Hi there, welcome to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 140. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jody. And normally I would say I'm the third of the three Carr brothers,
Right.
as people have mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
But not tonight, because Jeff is out working. He's hustling the work out on the real estate market with Jack Carr Realty.
Yeah. He has buyers in from Saskatchewan, so he's all booked up today during our recording and tomorrow as well, showing homes. It's a busy market, but he'll, I'm sure, be here for next show.
So while we were thinking it was just Jack and I, the twins, often we're asked quite often, are you identical? Are you fraternal? We don't know. We say we look alike, but we're not sure. And it's always been a bit of a mystery. And anyways, we'll get our guest to tell us more about this. So I'm pleased and proud to have Taylor Carr, my daughter, my oldest daughter. Maddie's the youngest and Taylor's the oldest. And Taylor, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Great having you, Tay.
And you've done some work around this question. Now tell us more about this Carr twins question that you've, I guess, all our whole life we've been twins. We've been twins our whole life.
Yes.
And ever since you've been born, we've been twins.
Right.
21 years.
Yeah.
And Mom's always said, "Oh, we're fraternal," and didn't the doctor say, "Oh no, we were identical"? But one or the other.
We never get the story right, and it's like, well, I know we look alike, but I don't know if we're identical or fraternal.
Well, I've told everyone we're fraternal. Well, that's what Mom said.
I don't know. Anyways, Taylor, back from us over to you. What do you hear about? What do you hear telling us, and why are you here?
I always get I get the same thing, are they identical or fraternal? And everybody thinks that they're identical because they look so alike. And I've always asked the same question, are they identical or fraternal?
Right.
And
You've
it's
asked
really
me that
always
quite a few
I
times.
don't know. I think we're fraternal because, Grammy, your mom, said that they were. And so I asked her myself. I said,
you got right to the source.
I did. I said, Grammy, are they identical or fraternal? And she told me she didn't remember. And we'll get into that in this story. So there's a pretty good argument for both sides. They could be identical, they could be fraternal. We have evidence to support both things.
Okay.
And now tell us too, you had an interest in this, but you're undertaking studies at UNB in the science program at University of New Brunswick. So does that tie into this at all?
Well, so I was
this could be part of some international research.
Yeah.
So I was doing a report on a different assignment, and I came across an article about it was called, it had something to do with zygosity in twins, which basically means whether they're identical or fraternal.
Okay.
And yes, and
So the next time we get asked, we'll say, "Oh, you mean the zygosity?" Right. Okay. We still don't know, but
so monozygotic or dizygotic, yeah.
Okay.
But basically, that's identical and fraternal, and it was discussed in this article I was reading, and that sparked my interest at first about this. And so I decided to kind of delve deeper into it and look up more articles on it in relation to kind of my own personal story. So I've done quite a bit of research on it. The deeper that I got into it, the more complex it became. You guys have a very special case, and I will let you know why.
Okay. And you went to the main source of all of this, was you talked to Grammy specifically as well, and you'll tell us more about that and what she said.
I did, yes.
And her name is Debbie Johnston, but just to say, we know who Grammy is, don't we?
She is my Grammy, yes. Your mother.
Okay, got that straight.
So, for some backstory, you guys are 49, I know. I don't want to say, but you can look it up on Wikipedia anyway.
You're not telling us anything.
We'll be the big 5-0 here later this summer. So.
I know.
Yeah.
So you were born on July 3rd at the
Okay.
St. Tom Regional Hospital, and your mother, she had already given birth to your brother Jeff, who was 4 at the time.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Who's in that picture? And
Oh, well,
so
your
there's Jack.
picture.
Oh, yeah, that's us.
Of course, we have our picture. That's you with Jeff, and you guys are with Jeff there at Christmas, it looks like.
Yeah, our big brother looking after us. And
Yes.
we were born at the St. John Regional General Hospital. So the St. John General Hospital, the old hospital. Okay.
Yes. So that's some backstory. So an interesting aspect of this case was that Grammy, or Debbie, had a rare uterine malformation, meaning that her uterus was heart-shaped.
Okay.
And that creates basically this divide, or this horn, kind of, in the middle, And it kind of separates it into two separate sides.
Okay.
And so this is associated with all kinds of complications, like infertility and miscarriage, preterm labor, hemorrhaging, rupture. It can be quite dangerous.
Right.
And very difficult to conceive or
It can be difficult
to
yeah,
carry
to
on.
carry
on
full, yeah.
Full term.
Okay.
Or full, yeah.
Oh, so I was going to ask this question, but that's your next slide.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So you can imagine twin pregnancies are very rare and risky because you don't have as much room. Right?
And that's with, especially then on top of that, a condition like mom has.
Yes.
With her,
so she has even less room, right?
Right.
Right.
So it can be very, very tricky. And so she became pregnant with twin girls in September of 1972 when Jeff was 19 months old. And she had several complications with that. And that's kind of how how they realized that this was such a particular case.
So some people most people might not realize that my mom actually conceived and had two twin girls.
Twin girls before us.
That did not survive pregnancy.
Yes.
And that's also quite rare, I would say, then.
It is.
That they had two and then another two.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so she had several complications for that, and she was hospitalized very early on with severe hemorrhage. I talked to her about this, and she told me that she lost the first baby at around 3 months along, which was would have been kind of in the fall, and then the second one she lost around Valentine's Day, 1973.
Oh dear. And
See,
so
I didn't know that part, that it was, that far apart. So
that one had
during that
lost
time,
the first one, and then
Yeah.
and where was she living? Were we living in Gary, New Brunswick, or were we living in St. John then, or does that really matter?
I think it was St. John because of the complications at that time.
Okay, so we need to carry on.
Yes. So that all happened. Basically, she wasn't, I don't think, supposed to, medical advice was that she wasn't really supposed to try to conceive again because it was so risky. But lo and behold, she found out she was expecting again in late 1974 with you two, and you were twins.
Right.
And so in March 1975, she was hospitalized with severe hemorrhaging again. And that's when they started running more tests on her.
Right, and we remember we were born in July, and we were born early, so March was early on in the pregnancy, I guess.
Yep. And so when they started running tests on her when she was in the hospital, they discovered her heart condition. So she has a heart condition called mitral valve stenosis, which was caused in her case by rheumatic fever, which is very common. She grew up in Tracy, the Junction area, right? Mm-hmm. So rheumatic fever would be a complication of strep throat. So back in those days, if you weren't using antibiotics to treat strep throat, you could develop rheumatic fever, and one of the effects of that is kind of like a narrowing of your mitral valves in your heart. So it can cause this heart condition. It's not hereditary. It's caused by this rheumatic fever that you get. So
that's what created the heart condition.
Yes, and so it's not as common anymore in this part of the world because we have antibiotics now. But back in the day, especially in rural areas, it was more common.
Okay.
And it's extremely dangerous for pregnancy.
Right.
Because it puts, pregnancy puts additional stress on your heart. And so it can cause congestive heart failure and AFib. And it's also very dangerous for the baby. It can cause low birth weight and preterm labor and stuff like that. And so she was in and out of the hospital during the pregnancy and kept on bed rest because you'd want to keep your heart rate as low as possible, right? The stress on your heart as low as possible. And she was still, because of the uterine condition, hemorrhaging a lot.
Wow.
So she knew about the uterine condition during that time?
Yes.
Okay. Because what we've always been told, from Mom, from Grammy, was the heart side of it, but not the uterus side of it. But I suppose growing up, how would you, understand that?
We
it's
must not
just
have
a heart
ever
condition?
we must not have ever taken the time
We
the
didn't
way
do that.
Taylor said, because you, as we said before, you're at Grammys every 2-3 times a week, but you met with her and specifically recorded and asked her about this, and she knows that you were doing this research and you're doing a presentation, so she's fully
Yes,
exposing
On
her,
board with
her
this.
medical history here, but we have signed a waiver, have we not?
Yes, we do. We have consent.
Good,
Exactly.
good.
Okay, so at that
Yeah.
time, there were very few guidelines on patient care for a woman with a heart-shaped uterus.
Right.
Delivering.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Sorry. Yes.
So next.
and so there were very few guidelines at the time. And I mean, you can imagine with the heart condition on top of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, back one more slide, should we, Joe?
Oh, yes.
We got Terry helping us with
I
the
know,
slide. They're our
and-
Yeah,
director.
that's-
so
Somehow we
if you
skipped
hear us
ahead.
say go back or forth on
You
slides,
look like you're
we're
chasing a bug there.
I know. Well, I was just trying to tell them to go ahead, but now we're back again, and we're just like every presentation we do that. There we
Okay,
go.
there we
okay,
go.
okay,
Okay,
Thanks,
we're
Terry.
on. Okay, so yes, there were very few
Right.
guidelines on patient care at the time for women with a heart-shaped uterus in labor, and you can imagine adding the heart condition on top of that,
right.
where it's so dangerous, especially during labor, to give birth. That was almost unheard of in New Brunswick in 1975. I mean, this was very, very rare.
So you kind of then saw what these conditions were, and then researched about how common it was or how it wasn't common, and
Yeah.
how.
It's-
What is it like? Is it?
It's really, really uncommon.
So we are quite special.
You are.
And-
I know
in
you
fact-
want to hear me
No.
tell you that.
And I meant to say, so my mom is quite special.
Yeah.
So carry on.
Like it said here, is that the babies were carried, or in most reported cases, continue on in that part, that the babies were carried on opposing sides of the divided uterus and delivered via C-section.
So that's typically what they would do in those rare cases. That's what would happen is they'd each baby would be on each side, one side larger than the other,
And then do
but
a-
also smaller. And then to deliver, they had C-section.
Right.
But as the bottom line says, this is not the case.
This is
in
not the
that
case.
situation.
No. So I believe, and now I'm not a doctor yet. Hopefully, maybe one day.
It's a
But
goal and aspiration, which makes me a proud dad. But anyway, carry on.
anyways, maybe I'll think differently in the future. But at the moment, it makes sense based on the research that they didn't do a C-section because of the stress it would put on the heart.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a doctor. Maybe
And
a
you weren't
doctor
there
can
in
correct me and tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, 1975, and you weren't in the room, but
I wasn't, but-
potentially.
Based on some of the things I've read, that could have been part of why, because
Okay.
of the heart condition.
Okay. Wow, it's a bit puts tears in my eyes.
I
Carry
know.
on.
And so Grammy believes that you guys were on the same side. Now, I don't know of the uterus that she carried.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whether that's true or not.
No.
know.
Well, yeah. So
But-
now carry on though on that slide though about against the odds, because we've often talked about it, us being premature twins and a challenge rate from birth. You know,
Heart condition
overcome and
and
challenge. My mom with heart condition and a cancer survivor, open heart surgery. But then you're getting into the details of maybe where that tenacity comes from from our mom, and maybe why we have a bit of that and it carries on. Anyway, carry on. So she went into the hospital in St. John.
It was extremely, extremely rare the more that I did research on it. And I actually called Hunter, Jack's son, my cousin, Hunter, and I was like, you have to hear this. This is crazy. All this stuff that I'm reading, and like, they really shouldn't be here. Like, really, they really shouldn't be here. It's actually, in my opinion, rare that you guys were conceived, delivered, and you were both healthy. And that Grammy was healthy as well. It's kind of a miracle in my eyes, a little bit. But anyways, so she went into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
She went into the hospital, St. John Hospital. She said around 10:30 p.m. on July the 2nd, which was 7 weeks before her due date.
And we were born on July 3rd, so the night before at 10:30.
Yep. And so Jackie Laverne Carr was born first. He was 3 pounds, 15 and a quarter ounces. I quoted her
wow.
directly. That's what she said.
Okay.
That's what Grammy told
Yes,
you.
15. Yep, she knew that right off the top of her head. 7 minutes later,
Yep.
you were
often
born.
asked how-
Jody Rochelle Carr was born. She says bum first, weighing,
Which is also another part of the story.
Right.
Breech baby.
which was like again dangerous.
Yeah.
And not ideal.
Okay,
Right.
so weighing 4 pounds.
You were 4 pounds and 9 3/4 ounces, she said.
And it was at 1:24 p.m. in the afternoon on July 3rd. I do remember that. At least that's what I was told.
Okay,
Mom has
so-
told me that. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so she says that she went unconscious during your birth, Dad.
Okay.
Jody's birth. Because the doctor wanted to attempt to flip him before birth because you were born bum first, but I guess they were unsuccessful at that, and you were just born bum first.
Okay.
Which, I know you can only, some people have given birth, I'm sure, but...
Yeah, I know. And when, I guess when you think about it, it's, she had the small uterus, the heart-shaped uterus. We were on one side of the uterus. She had a mitral valve and wasn't doing C-section, so I had trouble in the heart. And then one gets delivered, and then the second, within 7 minutes, they're trying to flip me around to fix this breech, and she couldn't. And I'm delivered that way. She's unconscious in the St. John Hospital.
Another thing, not everybody will know Grammy and what she looks like, but some people will. But Grammy was really only like 100 pounds.
Yeah, she's
at
pretty
the time.
small.
She's about 5'1", and she weighs about 100 pounds, and it's really miraculous, the whole thing.
Okay.
Right, wow.
Okay. So
So when she woke up, she said that you guys were taken to the incubators, and that was that.
Right. It's just
Okay,
down the
well,
hall.
let's take a break.
Okay.
It's time for a break. It's 15 minutes.
Okay.
Which is when we usually break for the segment, because this will get us into the next of, so the delivery, you did a great recap. Delivery, we're taken to the incubators, and then she wakes up. Well, let's hear some more of the rest of the story right after this break.
Thank you, Taylor. We'll be right back.
Hi there, welcome back to the Carr Show. It's episode 140, and I'm Jack.
And I'm Jody. And normally the third of the three Carr brothers, but Jeff can't be here,
he can't.
so instead we did a show just about Jack and I. We finally had our chance to talk just about us. But anyways, he's out working, hustling the real estate market and under Jack Carr Realty.
Right.
And we're really happy Taylor's been here. You've heard the first segment talking about the background of her research on Jack and I being twins, identical, fraternal, and then talking about the birth, our mom, what she went through and what we went through, but the champion that she is and why. And we got to the point where we were born, we were delivered, we were taken off to the incubators down the hall at the General Hospital in St. John, and my mom woke up. Grammy woke up. So Taylor, where does that take us to right now?
Right.
Well, she woke up and you guys were in your incubators. Obviously, she was probably not in the greatest of shape. I mean, she had lost a lot of blood. She was hemorrhaging really bad during the delivery.
And had been hemorrhaging all the way along for months.
Yeah, for months.
And
had
100 and some pounds.
Yeah. So, so it was, you can imagine she was in a delicate condition.
Yeah.
So she told me that she wasn't allowed to see you guys at first. And after a couple of days went by, she decided, no, I'm going to go down and see them anyway.
Because was that fairly common then? I don't know, 1975.
It must have been, yeah.
Nowadays, you stay right with the mom. The research shows that you should be right there and and whatnot.
But back in the day, that wasn't as common. If you were in the incubators, that was a whole separate room. You know what I mean?
You probably don't normally be taken out of those and brought back to the room.
Well, you might
got
not
to stay in
anyways.
the incubator.
Yeah.
And then...
but now you wouldn't go several days without even being able to see the baby, typically.
No. In fact, they would find a way for the mom to touch the baby and stuff through the incubators and whatnot. But anyways, carry on.
And
so
she
a few days went by and she had seen her...
She had never seen her babies that she had just given birth to. You know what I mean? And so as a mother, you can imagine the angst that would cause you. And so she decided she was going to get herself up out of bed and walk down to see you. Well, she was not supposed to leave bed, obviously. No. She was not in very good shape.
Very weak.
Didn't stop her. So she said that a nurse ran into her in the hallway and said, "Where do you think you're going?" And she said, "I'm going to see my babies. It's been days." And so the nurse said, "Okay, well, I'll get you a wheelchair and I'll wheel you down there to see them."
Right.
So that's how she first saw you guys, through the kind of nursery window. You guys were in the nursery. And she said that Jody, Dad, was doing real well. You were gaining weight quickly. You were the bigger twin.
Well, Dad did call you Chubby.
Dad always called me Chubby, and what did he call you?
Jode's nickname was Chubby by Dad, and mine was Squirt. And so there you go.
And look where we are today. Same.
And now it's a little bit different. I'm a little chubbier.
Okay, we got that out of the way, right?
So, okay, so after a few days, then they
she
said,
get down
Debbie,
to the
go back to
incubator,
your room. Let's get you a
I
wheelchair.
gained weight quickly. I was doing well.
Yeah.
You were doing real well.
Being the
Jack,
second baby, though, and the larger baby, it's kind of interesting. Isn't it normally the other way around, right?
You'd think,
the
but
first baby goes. Anyway, carry on.
So anyways, but
Debbie
I guess
was to. Oh yeah.
she said that Jack was losing weight, which at first both lose weight, but typically you start gaining it. But I guess Jack was just losing weight and began to struggle, had failure to thrive, stuff like that. Grammy said she was very worried about you. She seemed like she was worried, reliving it.
Telling you about it.
And she was telling me about it.
Remember, he was only 3 pounds to begin with.
Right, and he was smaller. And so Dad, grew you grew strong enough, I guess, or quicker to leave the incubator. But the doctors thought it would be best for Jack's health if they left you in there with him.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that you wouldn't. So I just thought that was cute, how you guys all help each other along.
Yeah.
And so after a couple weeks, you finally began to gain weight, and then by mid-August, you guys were all able to go home.
Okay, so that would be a couple more slides probably. So that's quite something. So it was about mid-August. So then a month and a half or so is how long we were in the hospital.
Well, that's a long time then. And so did Grammy stay in the hospital that whole time too, or did she get?
She said she was discharged by the end of July.
Right.
But that you guys had to stay until kind of a few more weeks.
And we were living in St. John at the time, or were we living in Gary then?
Yeah, Grammy was in St. John.
Okay.
Your dad was back in Gary.
Yes.
Grammy had stayed in St. John because they felt that it was safest for her there with the heart specialists in St. John.
Right.
Because they knew that her labor was going to be dangerous.
Yeah, right. And my grandparents, Clinton and Ina Carr from Gary, they had an apartment that they rented. My grandfather worked at the Winter Port, and they lived on the west side of St. John and rented. And my dad worked in St. John quite a bit and was home. And don't forget, it's 1975, so maybe the dad's not around quite as much that way. But she stayed there and came back and forth to the hospital probably while we were there. And now Nan Carr, she was quite involved.
Yes,
with helping
she was.
Mom and
She was the one who picked Grammy and you guys up at the hospital and
oh,
took you
when we
back to
came
Gary. Yes,
when we came home.
when you came
In
home
mid-August.
in mid-August. Yes, she did. And so, are they identical or not
That's
through
the
this whole
question.
story?
Right.
Okay, that's the question.
The whole story.
Right. Let's
We
get
don't
back
know.
to the question. Right.
We don't know. And
Oh.
the reason we don't know is because, well, Grammy was pretty preoccupied during this birth, as were the doctors, the specialists who were.
Trying to
Who
just
were-
make sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of keep people alive really was the main focus.
Yes, and so it was unclear what type of twins they were.
Because how would you know if you were identical twins at the birth or fraternal?
Well,
I know it sounds like a dumb question, but
I
I'm
know,
asking
but
that for our
we're
viewers,
layman's,
like
you know,
just
like,
a
we're not
layman's term. I
doctors.
mean,
okay, well,
look,
back in the
would
day.
you have one placenta, two placentas?
Well,
or-
back in the day, there was a time when they thought that identical twins were only ones that shared one placenta.
Right.
Okay.
But newer research has shown us that that's actually, there are lots of cases where there are identical twins that have two placentas.
Oh.
And so that's not a very good indicator anymore.
Oh, okay. That was my reasoning all the
doctor
time.
Yeah, that's what we
No
said. Gee,
excuse.
we went to
Well, we
different
didn't know.
placentas.
Mom was unconscious.
Right.
We didn't know there was one placenta, two belly buttons, one
Yeah.
belly button. We didn't know.
And so we have an argument for both.
Okay, so you've done some work on
I
that.
have the pro-con list right
Okay,
here.
okay, let's
so we have, so the reasons that they could be identical. Number one, they look like twins.
True.
Right?
We get that often.
People get them mixed up.
Next comment. Yeah, exactly.
And even Grammy was saying when you guys were born that she couldn't tell you apart at first.
So what did she do to keep us straight when we were home?
She kept one of your guys' bracelets on your ankle. It was too big to
be
go
on
on
our
your wrist because you guys
wrist.
were so small.
So when we were in the hospital, they gave us our little wristbands on our ankles.
Yes.
And when we came home at the end of August, she kept one of the bands on one of us so she could keep track who's who.
Yes. Oh,
when Uncle Jeff was feeding us and whatnot.
Yeah,
and-
when he was keeping house there, yeah.
Yeah.
4 years old. Anyway, so that's that. So
Yes, and so she thinks they were on the same side of the uterus.
Right.
Okay.
So if, that would be more of an argument that it would be possible that they were identical, right?
okay.
Because if they were identical, you wouldn't have one on one side and one on the other.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Because it would have, you know what I mean?
Well,
sure.
Does this
we'll
make
follow
sense?
along here.
Well, now you're the research
yeah.
expert person. We're just it makes sense. You
yes,
sound
it makes
confident.
sense. They have the same mannerisms,
Oh,
and their kids look and act alike. So
Right.
particularly Hunter and I, get told a lot that we look and act alike. I mean, you told me when I was born that the first thing you thought when you saw me was how much I looked like Hunter.
It's true. It's true. And you know, you were in the baby thing, and all swaddled up when you left the delivery room. And anyway, your face, your lips, everything. You looked like Hunter. It was amazing.
Yeah. So, you know, and we have very similar personalities. And
you and Hunter, you mean?
Yes, Hunter and I.
So if you were identical, tell me why that matters again. Because if we were identical, then you and Hunter would be sharing the same.
Technically, if you guys were identical twins, that would mean you guys have the same DNA, right?
Exactly.
Which would mean that technically, even though Hunter and I both have different parents, we would be biologically half siblings.
Right.
Okay, because of the DNA.
Because of the DNA, which would mean that we would be technically half siblings, even though we have different parents. It's a very rare case, but that would explain why we're similar.
Okay,
you know
could be. Okay.
Also, you guys do have differences in your personality. People say, oh, well, they act alike in a lot of ways, but, you know, they're different.
Right.
Jack's maybe more outgoing and this or that.
We don't have to go into all of the details of how we're different.
There's a few little differences.
Just ask our wives. They'll tell us how we're alike, especially.
But personality differences specifically can be attributed to different experiences, different environmental experiences, you know?
If one was in the incubator a little longer or was...
Well, I'm talking more like as you were growing up, even in your young adult lives, when you went off and lived separately.
Well,
I mean, you're still two separate people who experience two separate things, right? So that affects your personality in different ways.
Okay.
And the reasons that they could be fraternal. Their mother, Grammy, had twins before, right? Fraternal twins run in families.
Okay.
There is some evidence to show that identical twins may run in some families as well.
Okay, but not as
prominently.
Because we do have
everything else is a little more rare, so maybe
maybe
too. We don't know,
but it's a good point.
And we have fraternal twins through our mom's side of the family in particular.
Two sets,
and sometimes like they have an older and then a set of twins. Like, isn't it? That's usually there's a common. We'll have to get more detail on that, but. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Yes, and so you've always believed yourself to be fraternal, so that is another argument.
Mom always told me that we're fraternal.
And I've always said, well, I don't really know for sure, but we look a lot alike. But I kind of lean towards fraternal because I thought identical was having to be looking exactly alike. And we can tell each other apart.
Because there is a difference.
There is a difference.
But I thought that too. Like identical was 100% identical.
But what you have to realize is that one of you, you know, one twin is normally going to be bigger, even though you're identical, because
that's not the only difference.
But in our case, it could be.
Not anymore. I mean, when you're born. But the difference is the fact, you had that experience when you were a baby, failure to thrive, whatever. Who had more of this? Who had more of that?
But we look a little different too.
But because the uterus was abnormal in mom, then, and as you mentioned, we could be identical. But because our environmental surroundings in her uterus was abnormal, so we didn't have an equal chance to grow.
Equal chance to develop and develop at the base.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. That is how you do develop minute differences between identical twins.
Well, yeah, I've always been half an inch taller. Is one example. I've always been a little bit bigger. Yeah. And then around high school, Jack would beat me in wrestling, and I'd jump off the top rope and beat him too. But anyways, that was one example I can always remember. I've always been.
And that's why we always thought, identical is identical.
Yeah, we're not.
Very interesting.
But that could be the reason why. Anyway, carry on.
In my opinion, you look a lot more similar than typical fraternal twins. You see some fraternal twins that look completely like just regular siblings.
Well, some are boys and girls, let's say.
Yeah. Well, true, yeah. You can be totally different genders.
But even the same gender might be...
They look different, yeah. And so, if people are mixing you up, that would be an argument that you might be identical. And so the solution here...
Oh, okay. What's the answer? What's your conclusions?
My conclusion is that you guys need to do a DNA test.
Oh,
okay. This is like Maury Povich here.
Maury Povich or Jerry Springer. Let's do the reveal. This is the old reveal party.
But that really is the ultimate way to determine this. So
that's the ultimate way to figure it out. And
is that your last slide?
Yes, that's my last slide. Are you done yet? Yeah.
No, it's just
no, but that really would be the ultimate way to really determine.
this
And I think
question.
that may be something fun to do.
We might
It
be
wouldn't
able to-
hurt, doesn't hurt.
What we should do is get the kit right here and see what we have to do. Is
I'll
this
come back on and say, and I'll be like,
A reveal.
all right.
A reveal. Very interesting, though. I mean, that's one way to. That is the way to solve that. But this is amazing research. Some of it, a lot of it, we sort of knew about it. but when you get into these,
I didn't know.
when you get into these details, there's just a lot that we didn't know about.
No, there
Especially
is.
the uterus, the length of time from when mom was pregnant for the girls. And the separation when one passed away and when the other one did later. Her uterus.
And were they
you
both
were
considered
born breech.
miscarriage? Were they both considered miscarriage? The two girls? Do you remember? Like,
Yes, because she wasn't delivering them.
okay, yeah, that's
So
right.
it wasn't a stillbirth.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, it was. I mean, the one thing we should take away from this is that Grammy is the strongest woman that I can ever even imagine to know.
Yeah.
I truly, and then even after you guys were born, just everything else in her life, her personal life, everything. I mean, I just don't. I truly. She's somebody that it's hard to complain around, basically, because
in mentioning that, she never complains herself.
She never
ever,
complains.
never.
And
Never-
she, anytime there's something,
Yeah.
And when I asked her about, because I was talking to her, and I told her, I said, like, geez, like, this is, what'd you think? Like, this must have been really painful. This must have been really hard. And she's like, oh, well, I don't worry myself much about, just things like that. It was fun. I would do it all over again.
Yeah, she's very loves us all, and she said that's her number one thing is her kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and and she's a trooper. She's resilient, perseveres, tough as nails, but then can be one of the most loving people as well and giving. And as you mentioned, never hear her complain. Never complain about anything. Never complain even about an ache and a pain.
No.
So really, she's the epitome of mums and Grammys.
Yeah, she is. She's the rock for sure.
Yeah.
Keep everybody together.
Yeah, and like early on there, like we were 4, she became a single mom, and we've talked about that before. And my dad was a hard worker, but times were that they weren't compatible. So my mom became a single mom, took 2 young twins, 4 years old. Jeff was 8, and we went on social housing, social assistance, and then she remarried. Military fellow, but that was a big challenge too at that time, especially in 1980 or whatever. And we've been influenced by our grandmother, who my dad's mom, Ina, and helped out my mom and my, and that's part of the story too about how Grammy had to do a lot of making sure her boys were looked after.
And she mentioned Nan Carr a lot when she was telling the story, even just things she'd say to Nan and stuff like that, and Nan being involved. She said she couldn't have done it without her. So, yeah, and
that's excellent because Nan's she's been passed away over 10 years now, and she's quite influential. It's kind of neat to see influential with mom because mom said that she's taught her a lot of motherly things and grandmother things for that matter too. And it's pretty neat though to have Nan still making an impact on people too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Same way with Grammy, that'll continue on too for forever.
And mom's like our other grandmother. She was, she lived away for a big part of this time.
Yeah.
So she wasn't, available the same way. And her Nan just lived right there next door often and was able to provide that. So
Taylor, what do you come from this experience? I guess you spend a lot of time with Grammy and Grampy, all the time, but in this specific project that you stemmed out of, to get an extra credit. At the time, it was an extra credit, but what are you taking away from this and your bond with Grammy even more so, I suspect, with this project?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I learned a lot about her. I learned a lot about you guys. I have a greater respect for her, which I already was in awe. But it definitely brought us closer for sure. I got to hear all about, different little stories she'd put in between little parts when she was giving me information about you guys when you were younger, and, how one time she would feed, she couldn't keep you guys straight, and so she'd feed one of you twice, and then the other one would cry, and she
fed twice,
yeah.
That's why I got called chubby. I was eating twice, double the time. That's why I was gaining weight more.
Yeah.
But so she'd get us mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, so she'd mix you up and feed one of you twice, or like burp one of you twice, and the other one would be crying, and stuff like that.
Well, there'd be much more little stories we'd like to hear from Taylor on that.
Yeah.
Some of those little intricacies and how Jeff was involved. And
She said Jeff was quite involved and he loved to run back and forth and help out and bring things and change diapers and help with feeding and stuff like that.
Well, and we have to thank all our babysitters. We've had a lot of babysitters in those early years too. A lot of people we didn't realize at the time they'd come up to us and say, "Oh, I changed your diapers. I was your babysitter one time."
We're still running into people.
And we still run into people. We had lots of babysitters and loved them all because they were really, they helped out as well. It took a community. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason, I guess, why I was so interested in this is because partially as I get older and, not anytime soon, Dad, but think about having kids myself.
True.
Yeah. Is there a hereditary type thing?
If this is, if they are fraternal and it does run in families, I was interested in whether there would be a possibility that I would have twins.
Right.
I kind of would like to be a little bit prepared for that. You can't fully, but I would like to know, before I get into this, like, what am I getting into? Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so that was partially why I was interested as well. So it's all interesting.
That's good. Well, let's take another break. And when we come back, you're watching the Carr Brothers Show. And we really do thank you. Thank Taylor for being on our show. And we're going to take a break. And we'll be back right after this. And we'll ask Taylor some more questions about herself and her future. Hi there, welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 140. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jody. And we're here on the Carr Brothers Show. We're talking about us, Jack and Jody, and whether we're identical, fraternal twins. We also have Taylor on the show as our guest, my daughter, who's done research on this, had talked to our mom, Debbie Johnson, Grammy, all about that question, the birth of both of us and her background, some of her heart condition, and just how rare, I guess it is that she survived this birth and that we survived. And Taylor, you were saying just what an amazing, tenacious, strong person that Grammy is, and that's what you've learned about her.
Oh, absolutely.
And for our folks at home, what's been so special is we got Grammy on the phone.
Oh,
yes.
We got Mom on the phone, and we asked her to, just say a few words. Mom, hello.
Hello.
And you're here with us on the Carr Brothers. We've called you before. You're always good sport.
Yeah. And
Yes.
Jack. Well, just we were Taylor was filling us in more of the details. I mean, we knew some of them, but not all of the details of pre-labor and leading up to it, and then during the labor, and then after the labor, and certainly a lot of odds against everybody, including yourselves, but survived it, all three of us, and it was quite a journey when we heard about that. And I guess what kept you going so strong, Mom? Because you never gave up.
Oh, I don't give up easily.
No, that's for sure.
No,
It wouldn't matter what it was, but this in particular.
Wouldn't matter what it is. I don't give up easily. But I think my strength came from my dad,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And his name?
Clayton.
Right. And
Clayton Boyce. Clayton Boyce. And
yeah, great point there, Mom, because Grampy, he was in his early 20s and had his right working arm amputated, among other things that he had to overcome, and single dad looking after 4 kids, and on and on. We could tell a lot of stories even about Grampy, couldn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a very strong man.
Yeah.
and he never gave up and always treated people well and looked after things and looked after people, didn't he?
Yeah.
And so
He, I know when I first had, I told him I had breast cancer. He had said to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
keep going forward. Don't give up.
And another story about Grampy as well, Mom. Remember when he was diagnosed with cancer in his hand and told that he'd have to lose his right arm and go to Montreal and do that, and you had to set that appointment, and it was a couple months or something like that. Right away, he started to learn how to write in print with his left hand, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did that right away. And he apparently, my grandmother had said that he had practiced before he had his arm off, although when he knew he was going to have it off.
Right.
He was practicing with his
Left hand.
left arm.
Yeah,
He was already practicing to look ahead.
Yeah, already looking ahead and not giving up. And so that was an amazing story, and those sort of things is what carried on with you.
Yeah.
Because you never complained about anything. Even you get a stumble on your toe or you do.
No, I
Fall on the
don't
ice,
have
we hardly
anything to
hear about it.
complain about.
You have,
Everything good.
and you're really proud about your boys. But Taylor was saying how they took us down the incubator in the hallway, and we were gone for a few days. And by then you were like, well, "Geez, where are
I
they?"
think it's around the fourth day. Like I was, I had the heart problem, and they wanted me to rest and stay in bed, all that stuff for a few days. But I got impatient. I wanted to see you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
So
don't
I
blame you.
asked them. They said no in a couple of days when you get stronger.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, no, I think it was the fourth day or something. I got out of bed and started down the hall. Nurse coming along, and she said, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, "I was going down to see my babies."
Going against the grain, breaking the rules.
She said, "Oh, well, you just wait a minute. I'll get the wheelchair." He's not walking way down there, but we'll take you down. So they did.
Yeah. Don't necessarily take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Just try to find the way about it. This isn't good for. And now what they keep the babies right in the room now. Like
They do
that's
nowadays.
you were ahead of
They
your
do.
time. You were ahead of your time, Jack.
Well, especially this being like quite a neonatal, very high risk pregnancy and delivery and post delivery. That was quite amazing that you even had the strength to get out of bed and go down the hallway.
Yeah.
Yes. Back then, it was probably a miracle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's shed a lot of light on a lot of this. So
It's a miracle that you're living, Mom, that you survived that and you survived the pregnancy before.
yeah, your pregnancy
Oh,
before
yeah,
that.
like I say, I don't give up.
No.
No.
Go forward.
Oh, Mom, what do you think about this fraternal and identical thing? Because is it something that you?
I don't know a whole lot about that. But,
No.
apparently, they had told me. I think there was
One placenta.
I think they said. I can't remember.
No,
actually.
right. I know. And Taylor's shed some light on the research and whatnot. And she says the best way to find out whether we're identical or fraternal would be for us to do a DNA test.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I don't know
Yes.
if you.
Have you did that?
No,
No,
we've never
never
done
thought
that.
about
but
it.
You did that, didn't you, one time, Mom, on the Ancestry? Is that what we do? Just end up going through Ancestry.com or something?
Oh yes, I did do
Is that what
that.
we would
but
do,
I don't
Taylor?
know
Well,
if.
It's a question.
Ask our doctor.
Oh,
I don't
ask our
think they
doctor.
should
We'd
get
ask
the
our doctor.
proper
Good advice.
information unless you guys do a DNA.
Yeah. That's what I meant, but that's what
Yeah.
I guess we go to our doctor and find out what the best way
We
to go
call
about
and how there's clinic and things.
There's
and-
different tests you can get like through biolabs that are for twins specifically. Like,
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay, well, we'll do some research on that. But would you think that'd be interesting if we did that, or?
Sure. Would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be good. So, Mom, how are your Blue Jays doing? How are your Blue Jays doing, Mom?
My Blue Jays, actually, I'm watching them here now, and they're 3-1.
Oh, good.
And are you happy Vladdy is staying?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Now Jeff's not here.
They won that game, and he's got his dirty shirt as usual.
Oh, yeah.
Because he slides in the mud all the time.
Yeah.
Now Jeff's not here because he's out. Jeff's out working. You've always been supportive of whatever we wanted to do. Now,
Always. Didn't matter what it was. As long as you're happy doing it.
you're right there supporting us. But Jeff was a big part of helping you out when we were little, and still is today, really helping us out. But he'd help feed us and
Help put us up in trees.
Oh,
Get
yes,
us up in
he
trees.
wanted the feeders, and he brought the diapers, and he did all kinds of stuff for you. And then one day he wanted to have some of your food that you were having, the body food. And I think it was peas, or beets, something.
the baby food.
Yeah, and the baby food. So he was determined he was going to taste it. So I said, okay. So he had the spoon there, and he had a taste, and the way he went, he couldn't handle it.
He had to get. That's funny. And
He went to the bathroom. That was it.
and some of the things you had to do to kind of keep us straight, which one was which, and you'd tie this to us and that to us, or if we're out in the yard playing, what did you do sometimes to keep us safe? And
Sometimes actually, I had you fastened to the doorstep.
And back then, that was okay.
Each in a harness.
Each in a harness, though, so we had a safety
Like,
harness.
you used to be able to buy those, get those walking harness for kids
Yeah, back in the old days.
back then.
Yeah.
And then, but I put them on backwards,
Oh.
Okay.
so you couldn't get them unfastened.
Oh.
Put them on you guys backwards, so you couldn't unfasten them. Well, what happened was, you and Jody, you and Jack would unfasten each other's.
Right.
Oh.
You guys outsmarted
We
them.
did the loophole.
We were-
And, yeah.
We were pretty crafty and couldn't
But you didn't get out anywhere.
No,
You
no.
watching.
You were watching.
you
that's
couldn't
right.
you couldn't turn your head for very long. We would be scooting somewheres and underneath something, eh, Mum?
Yeah, we'd
Getting
be.
into
was
something. I said you couldn't turn your head very long if we weren't strapped down because we'd be getting into something or running right, going hiding somewhere,
You'd be down around the water, around the brook, or you never knew where you were at.
hiding under tires.
Hiding behind
One
tires.
time you both disappeared,
Mm-hmm.
and I was everywhere. And Nan said, "Oh, they're all right. They're right there, whatever." So I went in the house to get something. Back out, you're gone.
Oh.
Both of you.
Just must have been scared you to
Yeah,
wits.
the first place I went was a brook, and nobody there, and the old well was there, and the
Scared.
road, and nobody. So then I looked at the little old house that was beside Nan's cars, and the door was open a bit. So I go in there, and you're both of you hiding behind an old truck tire, giggling.
Hearing giggling.
Giggling.
Giggling. We thought we were
Found
being...
it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I bet you it wasn't funny when you found us, though.
Oh, anyway, yes.
Were you mad at us or what?
Oh, not really. I was glad I found you.
Well, I
Yeah,
suppose
there
you
you
were quite
go.
worried. Yeah, good point. Okay, well, that's good. I think we'll probably wrap up our show
Yeah.
here shortly, and we'll just probably say goodbye and that we love you. And this really, we think you're pretty special to begin
Yeah.
with, but it is amazing and kind of brings tears to our eyes in terms of what you've done, and you always put us first and just continue to set a great example. So we love you too.
Yeah.
Love you.
My children will always come first.
You're right.
Aw.
You're right
Yeah.
about that. You're a good example.
Okay.
Okay, love you.
Love you, Grandma.
We'll be over later
you
this.
too.
We'll be over later this weekend for Easter dinner.
Yes,
Good.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Saturday.
Love
okay.
you.
Love you.
Yep,
Okay.
okay.
Bye bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, we did good to get Mom even on the phone because she wouldn't have come on on TV
Like Taylor said
like that. So that
Yeah.
was good to get her on the phone, and boy, she nailed it. She was nervous beforehand, and we walked her through that.
She's a
She did
natural.
great. She did
That's where you
great.
guys get it from.
Yeah, I think so.
And so Taylor, yeah, you did quite a bit of work there. And any parting words or anything you want to say about it? How proud we are that you've done this presentation, that you yourself have come over adversity. Everyone has a story, but you have your story too. And in terms of never giving up as well. And I think you do get that a lot from people like Grammy and Grammy Boyce and of course your parents and your family, rest of your family too. But it's true, Taylor, and we really thank you for putting that time and that effort. And I don't even know if you got credit for that, if that was actually a credit for the course or not. But it could be for something in the future for credit. It's part
Maybe
of
I'll
your
keep it in my back pocket.
maybe
Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember, but it's certainly contributed as part of your studies and the effort that you did.
Yeah, keep up the great work and
Thank you.
your research abilities and your curiosity in life and on things. And it really, you're a big part of our family. So we really appreciate you coming on our show, Taylor. And keep up the good work at university and everything that you do.
And your goals and dreams of maybe one day being a medical doctor and whatever you
so.
decide to do.
That's right. So thank you, Taylor.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Nah.
Great. We want to thank our viewers on the Carr Brothers Show for watching this very special episode 140. And until then, we'll say good night and see you next show.